Since childhood, Raffaella had learned that life, more than just a simple journey, requires determined steps, even on difficult paths. There was no choice but to embrace sacrifice as a constant companion. Every morning, she would rise before the sun, already marked by fatigue in her young but resilient body. Her eyes revealed a truth that many prefer to ignore: the struggle for survival does not wait for age. For Raffaella, work was more than a routine, it was the foundation that supported her family, who depended on her strength. At 23, Raffaella already knew the weight of responsibility. Being young was never an excuse to avoid sacrifices; in fact, it was almost a motivation to give even more of herself. With each day of hard work, Raffaella nurtured a quiet inner strength that few understood. In this life, where every penny was counted, dreams felt like a luxury reserved for later. Still, something pushed her forward, perhaps an instinct for truth, a sense that there was still something greater to discover. Raffaella worked as a waitress in various places, from modest diners to elegant parties, where luxury cruelly contrasted with the simplicity of her worn apron. She observed the world around her with discreet curiosity, the mark of someone who sees beyond appearances. Gradually, she learned that mystery lies as much in grand things as in people. It was this thirst to understand the world that made her daily life feel lighter. A family mystery, hidden in the lines of her story, seemed to hover over her unnoticed. With each job in a different house, Raffaella encountered figures who, for a moment, seemed strange yet somehow familiar. Life had mysterious ways of placing certain signs in her path, as if there were a hidden purpose behind it all. Working felt like unraveling a puzzle without knowing exactly what she was looking for. Her path, unknowingly, was preparing her for a journey she could never have imagined. Her daily sacrifices were carving out the courage she'd need to face the unknown. Even though life was full of hardships, Raffaella had a restless intuition that she was destined for something greater, something that went beyond merely supporting her family. This intuition, perhaps born from a deeper truth, kept a flame of determination alive in her heart. She knew that, sooner or later, this mystery would reveal itself, bringing to light the truth she so longed to uncover. Every step, every drop of sweat, was becoming, unbeknownst to her, the foundation to solve this family mystery. As the days passed, her desire to understand her place in the world grew. Raffaella began to question herself: who was she, beyond a hard-working young woman? The answer seemed hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to emerge. She was unknowingly preparing for something that would make her question her own story and her deepest connections. And so, the cycle of work and sacrifice was not just the fulfillment of a duty but the opening of a new path, a road that would lead her directly to the heart of a mystery that had surrounded her long before she could remember. The night Raffaella stepped into the Valverde Mansion to work was one of those memories that linger like a secret whispered on the wind. Everything in that house seemed grand, yet it carried an aura of silence, as if the walls harbored something they preferred to hide. She went about her tasks as usual, discreetly observing the opulence around her. But amid this scene, one detail stopped her: an old photograph, forgotten in an almost unnoticed corner. That image, lost among the room's luxuries, held something familiar, and as she drew closer, Raffaella recognized the impossible. It was a photograph from her own childhood, a moment she barely remembered, frozen in an old frame. Beside her in the photo stood two figures whose presence in the image puzzled her, people who seemed to hold significance in the mansion. Rafaela felt a chill, a mixture of surprise and unease, something that made her question everything she thought she knew about herself. Why was that photo there? How could she, a young woman working from town to town, possibly have a connection to the Valverde house? The family mystery revealed itself a bit more with each detail, and she knew that night would change everything. Faced with this enigma, Rafaela felt the weight of doubt, as if she were confronting a truth hidden in the shadows of her own past. The image was clear, the girl in the photo was her. But the faces beside her, the place, everything pointed to a history more complicated than she had imagined. At that moment, Rafaela realized her quest would not only be to understand the present but to uncover something buried in the past. The mystery of the Valverde family, involving this house and this photo, had planted a seed that would grow, insistently, in her heart. Curious and suspicious, Rafaela discreetly tried to question a few people in the mansion. She didn't want to appear intrusive, but each word, each glance that deflected the topic, only heightened her suspicions. She noticed that the staff seemed to avoid speaking about the family's past, as if silence were an enforced rule there. Yet her restless spirit wouldn't accept vague answers. The sacrifice she already knew so well now seemed to have a new meaning, seeking the truth about herself, even if it brought to light secrets that no one else wanted to unearth. That photograph became a symbol for Rafaela, as if it held answers she was not yet ready to understand. In her mind, thousands of questions began to surface, each more insistent than the last. She felt an almost compulsive need to discover what linked her childhood to that mansion and the Valverde family. And though the fear of delving into these secrets lingered, her desire to uncover her past was even stronger. Like an old memory that insists on returning, the image of the photo felt like an invitation to keep moving forward. With each step she took inside the Valverde mansion, Rafaela felt as if she were entering a labyrinth of family mysteries, where the only certainty was her own intuition. The image of that photograph was etched in her mind, hinting at a truth yet to come, a truth shrouded in shadows and sacrifices. Rafaela knew that once she left that house, a new chapter in her life would begin. Her link to the past, once revealed, could forever alter the course of her present. After that night in the mansion, Rafaela felt something had shifted within her. Curiosity was no longer just a passing feeling, it had become a calling, an uncontrollable drive to learn more about her own story. In her search, she uncovered fragments of a past previously unknown to her, small clues that began to make sense. Each new discovery seemed to lead her to a single conclusion: her past was somehow intertwined with the Valverdes. It was a connection impossible to ignore, a revelation that made her question her own identity and the mysteries surrounding her family. With each piece she fit into this puzzle, Rafaela realized her ties to the Valverdes were not merely a coincidence. There was a hidden truth, one that had escaped her understanding until now. These discoveries were unsettling, challenging her sense of belonging and stirring emotions she had never felt before. Why had no one told her about this connection? And, more importantly, what was this family hiding? The family mystery seemed to consume everything around her, as Rafaela drew closer to a truth that had the power to change her life forever. Amidst the revelations, Rafaela began to see the world differently. It was as if the sacrifices she'd made for her family, the daily struggles and deprivations, finally had a greater purpose. This mystery surrounding her was no mere coincidence, it was part of an old story, hidden beneath layers of secrets and lies. This new reality forced her to confront an unsettling truth: her life was only the surface of something far deeper. Everything she had lived through seemed like a prelude to this discovery, as if each sacrifice had been necessary to prepare her for facing this truth. The impact of the revelations was overwhelming. Rafaela felt lost yet driven to move forward. In her mind, questions swirled, haunting her as she struggled to understand where it would all lead. Was she a Valverde? Had her life been marked by this connection since childhood? The answers were there, but reaching them would mean challenging forces that wouldn't hesitate to keep her in the dark. Sacrifice was no longer just a burden, it was the key to unraveling the family secrets that had shaped her story from the very beginning. As she searched for more answers, Rafaela began to realize the weight of this truth. Understanding her biological family's past and the mysteries surrounding the Valverdes would require a level of courage she had never known. Yet she knew she wasn't alone in this search. Each revelation pushed her to a point of no return, a journey that took her further from the young waitress she once was and closer to something greater, something more dangerous. The price of truth was high, and she was beginning to feel the weight of that sacrifice in her own skin. The truth was still cloaked in shadows, but Rafaela knew she was close to finding it. Each step brought her nearer to the Valverde family's secrets, each discovery pulled her deeper into a story that couldn't be told with simple words. Her past was etched into this narrative, a family mystery that had awaited her for as long as she could remember, waiting only for her to muster the courage to reveal what lay behind every sacrifice. With renewed determination, Rafaela was ready to face whatever came next. Her decision to investigate the past introduced Rafaela to a new reality, one where danger and sacrifice were intertwined. Each step toward the Valverde secrets put her in a precarious position, but turning back was impossible. In the midst of this search, she discovered something that made her tremble. The accident that had taken her biological parents' lives was not as simple as they had claimed. It was a dark truth, covered by decades of silence, and it pointed directly to her uncle, Claudio Valverde. At that moment, Rafaela understood she was dealing with something far greater than she had imagined. Gradually, Rafaela realized that Claudio's presence was a crucial link in this family mystery, one she would need to understand to uncover the full truth. Information about the accident was sparse, fragmented, yet revealed hints that left no doubt: Claudio was involved. The connection between her loss and the Valverde Empire was as clear as water. Yet, the risk of digging deeper into these revelations carried a new weight. Sacrificing her own safety in pursuit of answers had become inevitable, for she knew that only then would she be able to grasp the dark legacy of her family. Rafaela began to realize that in the Valverde Mansion, everyone knew more than they were willing to share. Each attempt to find information about the accident was met with cautious glances and calculated silences. Even the few available documents seemed mysteriously altered, and evasive answers left her feeling isolated. Those watching her seemed to understand her desire for truth, but none dared to help her. Sacrifice had now become her constant companion, and Raffaella knew that to reach the end of this family mystery, she would need to confront Claudio's resistance and that of anyone willing to protect him. The closer she got to the truth, the more Raffaella found herself surrounded by invisible threats. It wasn't just words or looks of disapproval. She began to notice subtle actions revealing just how much Claudio wanted the past to remain hidden. From coincidental encounters with strangers to warning messages, Raffaella could see she had crossed a dangerous line. For many, challenging the security of the Valverdes would be a fatal mistake. But for her, there was no other choice. The truth about her parents' accident and the sacrifices required in her search were greater than her fear. Details about Claudio also began to emerge. He was a powerful figure, a man of influence who knew how to manipulate circumstances in his favor. Raffaella now understood that her presence there was no coincidence. Claudio wielded a control that exceeded the imaginable. He was willing to protect his secret at any cost, even if it meant eliminating any threat to his empire. But for Raffaella, the risk was part of the price she would pay to uncover what had truly happened. Sacrificing her own safety was the only path to unraveling the mysteries of her history. Determined to press forward, Raffaella began to question what it truly meant to live in pursuit of the truth. With each new piece of information about the accident, she felt closer to understanding her role in this family saga. The connection between past and present, between sacrifice and mystery, grew more intense, more profound. Even knowing that the truth might cost her more than she had ever imagined, Raffaella would not back down. For her, each discovery was a step closer to confronting the true face of Claudio and the secrets he so desperately wanted to keep hidden. Raffaella's courage reached its peak when she decided to confront Claudio. After so many hints, clues, and sacrifices, there was no other choice. She prepared herself mentally, aware that the man before her was the guardian of the secrets that had shaped her life. Claudio greeted her with a cold, calculating look, typical of someone who is always in control. From the beginning, Raffaella recognized him as a dangerous adversary. But for her, the sacrifice of facing this direct confrontation was the only way to uncover the truth about the family mystery haunting her story. Their encounter was tense, like a battle where each word carried an unmatched weight. Claudio, ever the strategist, tried to dodge Raffaella's questions, minimizing her suspicions and making her seem paranoid. But Raffaella was prepared. With each evasion from Claudio, she responded with greater determination, pressing on the questions he was desperate to avoid. Raffaella could see that her uncle was willing to go to great lengths to maintain control, perhaps even farther than she had imagined. He attempted to deflect, but Raffaella saw in his eyes a truth that could no longer be ignored. At the most critical moment of the confrontation, Claudio finally let his mask slip, revealing a glimpse of who he truly was. The man who had always seemed so unshakable showed, if only briefly, a ruthless side, willing to do anything to protect his secrets. Raffaella felt a mix of fear and strength. The truth she sought was there, between the lines of Claudio's behavior, and the sacrifice he demanded was steep. In that instant, Raffaella understood she had entered a territory where morality and ethics had long been forgotten. With each word exchanged, Raffaella sensed she was nearing the crucial point, where sacrifice would be inevitable for both of them. Claudio, determined to silence any threat, made it clear that his priority was to preserve the Valverde image and keep his power untouchable. Rafaela knew he would never admit his role in her parents' accident, but her very presence and insistence posed a risk to him. It was a battle of no return, where Rafaela staked not only her future but also the chance to discover who she truly was and where she came from. Realizing that Rafaela would not back down, Claudio began to reveal parts of the past, carefully, like someone choosing what to share and what to withhold. He played with the truth, manipulating facts to divert his niece from understanding what truly happened. Yet, Rafaela grew increasingly certain that his sacrifices weren't only about her, they were for an empire of lies he had built over the years. Claudio showed just how far he was willing to go, and Rafaela, aware of the danger, decided that no matter the cost, she would unravel the mystery that had been forced upon her. The confrontation left Rafaela certain that she was on the right path. Claudio had revealed more than he intended, and though she was still surrounded by shadows, she knew each sacrifice was bringing her closer to the truth. Now, the challenge would be even greater, as the confrontation had stirred a new phase in her search, one where there could be no more returns or doubts. Rafaela was ready for the next step, certain that the Valverde secrets and the mystery of her own life were about to be unveiled, no matter what it cost either of them. The discovery of the documents was a moment of absolute revelation for Rafaela, as if all the puzzle pieces had finally fallen into place. Among the stacks of papers, she found clear evidence pointing to Claudio and his involvement in the accident that took her parents. There, in the yellowed and carefully hidden pages, lay the truth he had so feared to expose. Rafaela felt a mix of relief and indignation. The confirmation she needed was in her hands. The family mystery that had haunted her for years now had a tangible answer, and she knew this would change everything. These documents not only revealed Claudio's guilt but also showed how far he was willing to go to protect the Valverde Empire. They contained records of cold, calculated decisions where the sacrifice of innocence was treated as mere strategy. Rafaela, who had always carried the weight of this accident's consequences, now saw the real culprit. Her instincts screamed to make this truth public, to dismantle the empire of lies that upheld the Valverde's facade of power and influence. And with these documents in hand, she knew she could finally act. Recognizing the magnitude of the task, Rafaela realized she couldn't expose everything on her own. She knew that facing Claudio and his circle of allies would require not only courage but also trustworthy people by her side. She found support in unexpected figures, colleagues who, aware of the risks, were ready to help her reveal the truth. These alliances, forged through pain and sacrifice, became the foundation of a resistance against the Valverdes. Rafaela felt that, no matter how difficult, the family mystery she had carried since childhood now held the power to dismantle an entire dynasty. With the help of her allies, Rafaela began crafting a careful plan to ensure every detail of the documents would be exposed in an irrefutable way. She knew Claudio would try to silence her and manipulate the evidence to his advantage, but she was ready. Every decision was made with precision, and the sacrifice of all involved lent even more strength to her cause. Rafaela felt that, at last, the truth would prevail and that the Valverde empire of lies would finally face the light of justice. It was as if each act of courage brought her closer to freedom, not only for herself but for all those affected by this web of lies. Rafaela's strength, fueled by the solidarity of her allies, became a real threat to Claudio and his structure of power. He, who had always believed in absolute control, was beginning to feel the weight of the approaching truth. The family mystery was no longer under his control, it was in Rafaela's hands, as she carried the definitive proof of his guilt. Despite the looming risk, she and her allies pressed forward, like pieces of a larger movement, ready to bring down the legacy of lies the Valverdes had built over the years. Each step toward justice brought a sense of freedom to Rafaela, a relief that went beyond merely exposing Claudio. She knew she was fighting for her own story, honoring her parents' memory, and shedding the weight she had carried her whole life. Sacrifice, ever present in her journey, was now transforming into liberation. Rafaela knew she was close to reaching her final goal and, with it, freeing herself from the secrets imposed upon her. In her heart, she felt that the mystery that had once imprisoned her was finally dissipating, clearing the way for a new life. When the dust of the revelations finally settled, Rafaela thought the mystery was over. But fate held one last surprise, a reconnection with someone she never imagined she would meet again. She discovered that her biological mother, Helena, was alive, though isolated from the world and without memory. The news stirred a new wave of emotions in her, blending surprise and hope. Rafaela realized that, even after all the pain and sacrifice, there was still room for a fresh start. It was as if the truth she had pursued so fiercely was rewarding her with the chance to rewrite her story. The reunion with Helena was one of the most intense moments of Rafaela's life. Looking at her mother's face, she saw the marks of a life marred by suffering, erased by time and circumstance. Helena seemed a shadow of her former self, but in her eyes, there was still a spark of someone who had once loved and fought. Rafaela understood that her mother's sacrifice was also part of this family mystery, an important piece in the puzzle that was now finally coming together. In the midst of this emotional reunion, Rafaela realized that the love between them had never truly faded. Helena's journey to recover her memory would be delicate, and Rafaela was willing to face it with the same determination with which she had uncovered the Valverde secrets. She knew the path would not be easy, years of isolation and pain had left their marks. But Rafaela would not be deterred. Step by step, she would help Helena rediscover who she truly was and understand the past that bound them so closely. For Rafaela, each memory Helena regained was a victory, a small piece of happiness after years of sacrifice. As Rafaela helped Helena rediscover the world, she felt whole for the first time in years. It was as if every sacrifice, every struggle, had led to this moment of reconciliation. In Helena, Rafaela saw a part of herself, a reflection of her own resilience and strength. Even without memory, Helena recognized the bond between them, a connection so deep that it transcended forgotten memories. Rafaela realized that the truth she had sought was not only in the secrets revealed but also in this reunion, where past and present united in an unexpected way. The process of reconnecting with Helena brought a peace Rafaela had never experienced before. With each day she spent by her mother's side, she felt old wounds healing, scars she had carried all her life. Sacrifice now held a new meaning, transforming into redemption and forgiveness. Rafaela was not only rebuilding Helena's memory, she was also reconstructing herself. She knew that the life they would share from then on would be a new chapter, one in which they could finally be free from the ghosts of the past. Thus, Rafaela completed her journey, though not in the way she had expected. The truth about the Valverdes had been revealed, the family secrets uncovered, but the greatest reward lay in her reunion with Helena. The mystery that had once surrounded her was now fading, giving way to a new life built on truth and rediscovered love. Rafaela felt that, at last, all the sacrifices had been worth it, for what truly mattered was there beside her, ready to be lived. After everything Rafaela has lived through and revealed, one question remains: how far would you go to uncover the truth about your own story? Remembering that courage and sacrifice are part of any transformation is essential for those who seek to understand more deeply who they are. What would you do in her place, knowing that each step could cost you the safety and stability of your life? If you feel ready to uncover mysteries and face your truths, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. This way, you'll continue to receive content that can inspire and bring transformative insights into your life.